welcome to our, Williamston, are we gonna do?
We'll do the pledge, yep.
Well, welcome to our 2026 visioning session. Let's stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll take public comments throughout. Yep. So I'll kick things off. This is part of our annual visioning session for our future fiscal year 26-27. We start the budget process talking about things in a very high level and year over year in a more condensed level for expediency's sake, and we don't like to drone on too much. Plus, I think we're narrowing down each year on things that I think are the most important. So we'll just make our way through the slides. We sent this out earlier. This is all of these items are pretty standard, and we talk about each and every one of these every year. So that's what we'll talk about tonight. Just a little way to start off with some levity. In local government, and I've been doing this for 30 years, like the greatest enemy we have, and people have heard the phrase before, good to great. It's just that sometimes the monotony, because sometimes government is boring and it's not exciting or not controversial, and it's things just like doing sidewalks and paving streets and doing water infrastructure or wastewater infrastructure, and that's really what a lot of this year is going to be. We don't have a lot of flash projects. We will talk about pickleball courts at McCormick Park as we move forward. So again, we want to be the enemy of mediocrities. I know Councilmember Hanson has probably seen this slide before, something very similar. Strong Town is it's a national movement about how communities of all sorts and sizes and populations really can work on improvements. And a lot of what we're going to talk about, or most of what we're going to talk about, is based on these four premise. You know, what are we doing? Or what is the community in most need of? What can we do to address that struggle, and do that thing and do it now, and then repeat? To me, there's no bigger example of that than Mill and Railroad Street. So we'll talk about that when we get to that slide. So that's just a way to kick things off. So again, we talked about utilities. We've been obviously running a water and wastewater plant is it's an important endeavor, and we've got great operators. We've got great staff for that. We're going to continue in the coming year with the water main projects. We've got a little bit of an update of our federal allocation from what we've called the slotkin money in the past. We have to submit a revised action plan, which is fine. It's not scary or anything. So once we do that, hopefully the money will be forthcoming, and we can start talking about the next phase of those, and that would be the Red Cedar water main crossing, and then the alley infrastructure, which is the alley immediately to the west of us. So that's really for the coming year. Those would be the projects that we would work on for water. For wastewater, we continue to work on our distribution system, which is whether it's the lift stations or the actual sewer mains. Last year, council did approve an expenditure for a smart cover to try and gauge our inflow and infiltration, and that's stormwater that gets into our system. And so now that we're moving into the first spring that we've had that device, there's actually two of them, right?
Two of them, right.
Those are deployed in different parts throughout the city, and we'll be able to track. These are the high flow months, February, March, April, and a little bit into May, and that's where the most rainwater comes through the plant. So we'll be able to strategically locate those. It gives us good data on where we can focus on making repairs in those areas to get rid of as much as we can the infiltration, the water that gets into the system. Every storm system, every sewer system has inflow and infiltration. We're in a low water table here, a high water table, because we have the river, and that's just the way it is here. So, any questions so far?
This is the engineering, right?
Sure.
How do you, if you already have a storm sewer thing that goes, there's separate systems, right? There's a sewer system and a storm sewer system. Then if the storm water is getting into the sewer system, how does that happen? Goes through a manhole or something like that?
Yeah, you wanna help me?
How do you repair it?
Yeah, they call it combined, and a lot of the older cities, in the larger cities, their storm and their sewer were combined together.
And
They
all
didn't,
went
they
through the
weren't
wastewater?
separated, and as we went forward, we knew that we can't sustain that way, we have to divide them, they have to be two different utilities.
Okay.
Um,
Storm
and-
sewer goes straight to the river then, right?
right,
Okay, but the other one goes to the wastewater treatment.
correct. And you don't wanna spend money at the wastewater plant treating rainwater, right, that's another cost as well, and, so it's not cut and dried, I mean, in time, you make it better and better and better, and it, till you're left with small percentages of combined. So that's how it works. To say that it's all 100% separate, no city is. There's always some type of, somewhere of the old part of town where eave troughs maybe, or the buildings are coming down and they're still connected to these old connections where there's no prints to it, and they're into the sewer system, so.
Okay. I'm just trying to think how you.
Yeah,
So-
so specific to like, how does water get in the sewer?
Yeah,
Sewer mains come in all shapes and sizes, the actual mains, anywhere from 6 inch to, I think our largest interceptor is what, 36?
Right.
So 3 feet in diameter, that's a big pipe.
yeah.
There's thousands of feet in the ground. And when a water main, you're not supposed to say it out loud, it's like talking during a no-hitter, but I said it, so I guess I'm free to talk about it, because if you say water main, it conjures one up. Water mains break, you know that, because the water bubbles up, you lose water pressure, so that's easier to find. If a sewer main is broken, or if there's small cracks somewhere, water can get in there slowly over time, and until there's a huge failure and then a sinkhole or a small sinkhole, it's really hard, or, heaven forbid, the people on that line or the business on that line, their sewer is clogged, or is it draining as well? So there's no way to tell. The only way to tell that is like to televise like every sewer main in town, and the city actually did that there was grant money available for that. I think we did that in 2012 or 14 here, so we have that old study. So we knew a lot of the older areas that needed repair. We've been focused on that, but what this will tell us is, okay, on a somewhat regional level throughout our system, okay, we know where the wet areas are in town, we know where the largest pipes are in town, and historically, if you're by one of the sewer manholes, and it's the middle of the day, which isn't a high flow day for sewer. The Super Bowl is, people are using the bathroom, having parties, but if it's middle of February and a Tuesday, and you hear water rushing in the manhole, that's infiltration. So we have all, that's a very fundamental way of saying, we know where, we suspect where the major problem areas are, just by logic and experience, and so we're going to use that manhole to test that, and that will help form a capital improvements plan in those areas. In some cases, I'll use the golf course as an example. Those are 3 or 4.
There's quite a few.
Yeah, there's a bunch of sewer manholes on the golf course. Okay, those aren't watertight. The golf course floods. A lot of water comes in, so logically we'll be placing the device
The
over there.
parallel
to
with the
read that.
water main breaking and the sewer main breaking, that's a good parallel.
Yeah.
I see how you fix that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's good.
So how often do you recommend doing the looking at it?
Well,
In 2013, you said?
Yeah, I mean, it's really expensive to televise everything.
Yeah.
I think the approach that we have now, we're able to really locate where the primary inflow is, because like I said, everyone could have anywhere there's a weak joint, anywhere through the whole system, water can get in. But we know, like North Putnam, which we just redid, or Williamston and Lloyd, those are new, and we should not see any. So we don't have to start there. But all of those larger areas, like especially around the big interceptors and around the lift stations, like right down here on High Street, we have a lift station. We know that's an area that, for whatever reason, water is getting into the lift station. So that'll be one of the areas that we study too.
Well, and Putnam, Williams, and Lloyd were some of the oldest water mains, so we.
Correct, yep.
In addition, that was part of the reason those were targeted, as well as
Right.
the roads needing done. But
Yep.
because of this I&I. One more thing real quick before we move on. You mentioned needing to do some additional paperwork for the next tranche of the Slacken money. What's involved in that? That's just to get them to release that next tranche?
Correct,
Or what's
yep.
the?
Yeah, I mean, they need an updated action plan. They needed just some more information, so
Okay.
we'll do that. Yep. So, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but I just didn't want, the Tax Increment Finance Authority, they did amend their plan. All of these projects were included in that plan, other than the first one, which it didn't require a TIF amendment. So, all this work has been done. We'll be in the process of bidding out, all of these projects over the next, months, and in one case, the next year, and we'll be rolling with these projects. TIF is in great financial shape. It's a lot of money, but that's been captured, but it's there, it's available, and it's ready to use for these projects. So when we look at, back to like, what the things that we can fix immediately that can have the most impact, we've talked about this at length at council really since I've been here, and that's Railroad and Mill Streets. And so those projects will be bid out this year, and we'll hopefully get favorable bids, and we'll have enough resources to also do Quinlan in spring of 2027. And Quinlan, it's not a full reconstruction, it's just a mill and fill, if you will, replacing the bad pavement that's there. And so those would be the larger street projects proposed for the coming fiscal year, because remember, it spans 2 calendar years, 26 to 27. And then Progress Court Industrial Park Drive, a lot of that's also bid dependent on the other projects that we have going on. That likely won't be in the next fiscal year, but we may be bidding that out towards the conclusion of 26-27 with the idea that we would do that project. Because Progress Court and Industrial Park, again, those aren't full reconstructs, but those are Class A roads, which are heavier roads, so they'll take more of an asphalt treatment for the repair. And all those are TIFA funded, so those are apart from our normal road projects. And then much like we did last year, we'll have miscellaneous asphalt repair projects across the city. Really, we'll have a better handle on that when winter is gone for good, and then we can go out and assess the worst areas. And first, where's it, Fulton today that we're looking at?
Right.
Over Fulton, where that wraps around to Bismarck.
Corner of Bismarck.
There's cones out right there now. There was a water main break up there a couple weeks ago, and it's still too wet to like patch that. But that whole area, it's really bad. Sidewalks, again, we've talked about this many times, that the amount of effort that we did in the last couple of years is just going to be the effort moving forward. There's areas we know right away that need to be replaced, and then in the next 6 weeks, the new projects present themselves with the freeze, the freeze thaw, and then also the tree roots pushing up because of that. So we don't have the specific areas yet, but expect to see a list very much like we did last year, where we have, 12 to 18, depending on the length of sidewalk that we need to do. So, and then last one, and I'll take questions. I kind of blacked these out a little bit. Non-motorized paths, DDA is still working on the final phase of Red Cedar Trail, and I've got a slide on that in a second. And then the Memorial Park, which is the Honor for All Trail, we did receive a grant from Ingham County to do that project in 2028, but that is contingent upon the renewal of the trail millage this fall. I think it's this, is that this fall? I know it's this year. I'm not sure. It should be in November election this fall. So, any questions about street? Yes.
Is there any improvement in road surface technology that would lead to less cracks?
If we can move everybody to South Carolina or Florida, that would probably be the best thing for us in Michigan. That's a great question. There's different ways of, before it used to be, tear it all out and put it back in. And Mr. Schmidt and I were over there in Fulton today talking about, how could we possibly do that? Is it a cutout, or do we, what's the term?
Mill.
Mill means you take it all off, but there's a crush and shape where you crush the asphalt in place, and that serves as a sub base. So there's improvement, not really in the asphalt itself. There's been discussions about, over time, this goes back 30 years, of using recycled tires. There's a couple of demonstration projects right now on the west side of the state that use other types of recycled materials. So, and it's more cost affordable. It doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be, survive longer than what they normally.
Right, because you got to wait for a while to see if it works.
Yep, that's right. Yep. Yep.
Railroad and mill, is that going to be a traditional asphalt, or is that going to be like mullet?
Yeah, so, well, mullet is traditional asphalt, that's 3 inches of asphalt. So for a
That's not
railroad,
the one we did the double chip seal?
we did not. We went ahead because we got a great
Oh,
price
you're right.
on High Street. We had a contractor on site. We were able to just do asphalt. So we're gonna bid this out with the challenge we ran into with double chip seal is there's very few contractors that do that, and that's traditionally a county road type function. And I talked to a couple different county road commissioners, Ingham County, Washita, and Livingston, and they do that in-house themselves. Unfortunately for us, Ingham doesn't do that. They do that in odd years. So we are gonna get a price for a 3-inch traditional lift, if you will, 1.5 on railroad and mill, because that will be a better treatment.
Yes.
So we're gonna go with that. Hopefully it's favorable pricing, and then we'll move forward with that project this year. And again, this is not a new slide. This last section of the trail, this is all the way from, the kayak launch, Red Cedar Bend Landing, which is Project 8, which actually is complete. So Project 6, 7, and 5 are the projects that we'd have to work on. There's some right-of-way acquisition issues that we're going to be working towards, and hopefully we can figure that out. But that would be a DDA project. But the rest of those projects are done, and everybody can agree that it's a 1, 2, 3, and 4 are pretty awesome, nice additions in town. And so is Project 9, which is the landing. So now comes to the audio-visual portion. I hope Mr. Hansen's back soon, because I know he's been waiting with bated breath for this. We've talked about this over a couple different budget cycles, moving towards a leaf vacuum. This is a fairly common piece of equipment used to do leaf work in town. Currently, when we pick up leaves, the residents are required to rake them into the street. And then you want to describe the process from there?
Right, they rake them into the street instead of the extension, and then you have the leaves on the street, and then we literally come down through there and broom them with a small tractor with a U-shaped bucket on the front with bristles, the little John Deere. We have a pinch bucket on the loader where we grab them, and we load them in with the pinch bucket on the loader, the large loader, and we put them in the back of an old garbage truck packer, and then we run the packer forward, and so we're literally picking them up and putting in the back of a truck. Then after that, if we go down the street and they're so-called smeared down the street, we need somebody to come behind us on that particular street before we move on and use a street sweeper and clean the street up. And then we're not keeping the leaves from continually going down into the storm drains and the catch basins. So you might have 4 or 5 vehicles out there burning diesel fuel and a bunch of guys. This idea here is you have a driver and you have an operator, and the machinery's doing the work. And I want to say about 20 years ago they had these, maybe longer, maybe I'm dating myself, maybe it was probably closer to 25, but they were just the very beginning, in the infant stage, and they weren't very productive. But they got big motors in them now, they got big capacity, the hydraulics are awesome, being able to control your suction arm. They hold up to 25 yards in the back, and as they bring them in, they're chewing them up, so they're not just full leaves like they would be in the packer when we pick them up. So, yeah, you can go along, and the idea of this is, and unlike this picture here, they're still in the street. We would have to educate our residents on, you leave them on the extension, we'll come around and pull them off the extension down the curb line, and then towards the beginning of the leaf season, we wouldn't be getting it spick and span like it is here, because they're going to be raking them out the next couple days and on into the weekend. This goes on as a process for a couple of months. But yeah, so this here, the street stays cleaner. You got a lot of production going on there with 2 guys, literally a driver and an operator, and you're not burning all the diesel fuel. So was that pretty?
It was very thorough, thank you.
Okay.
So you have a driver of a big truck, and then you got one person in the cab. We've in community we used to work in, we had one of these, but we did not have the cab. We've talked to a couple of different communities that have the cab, like the pulling cab, and the operators do not like the cabs for a variety of reasons. They get covered up, they get fogged up. So
It's dusty, they can't see.
and it's a little I mean, these things are not free, they're fairly expensive, but not having the cab makes it more cost affordable. There's also options for one that come with water. I'm not sure why you need that, but
Keep the dust down, and that hasn't been now proven to be, it's more costly than it is effective, so.
What about the time comparison?
yeah, I mean it's you know,
Much faster, we're not going out every day, maybe we're running the route, maybe you can do it on Monday,
This
obviously.
is less people and faster.
Right.
yeah, it's 2 people as opposed to 5. Yeah, 5.
And then your route time, you're doing something else all week during leaf season. Maybe you run the route on Friday and Monday. You know, the weekend everybody's raking their leaves out. You run it on Monday, finish up on Tuesday, and then you're open for projects for the rest of the week. And maybe you hit it again on Friday and the following Monday instead of every single day for 2 months during leaf season. So
Yeah.
And the disposal of those leaves, since they're being crunched up,
Yep.
would that be better for where we're disposing them at?
Yeah, I mean it's yes. I mean the short answer is yes because you can move more and you get more leaves, but they'll go to the same place. They'll go to near our water the water plant at the end of the access drive. There's a compost pile, and they go there for a short time. We turn them once or twice, but then that material's hauled away within a season or 2.
and I think that would compost a lot faster.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Finer.
Yeah.
Where does it ultimately end up after the decomposition?
It goes to we truck it away to a compost farm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't
I
tell
think
you.
Lester Brothers,
Lester Brothers hauls it to a farm. Yeah.
a couple of compost farms.
I know everybody's just scintillated by the video, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop it, but.
Do they suck up any cats?
A few pumpkins during Halloween time.
Okay.
So again, this would be, the downside of these is, these are not like, you know, a trailer down at Tractor Supply. I mean, you gotta order it, and then they have to, if we're lucky enough, they'll have one, but that's usually not the case, and so they have to fabricate it. So if we were through the budget process, should council approve it, and we'll have a strategy to fund it a couple different ways, you know, outright, and then which is always best if you can afford it, but if you're not comfortable with that, we can finance it in a couple different ways. But these run anywhere from 200 to 250,000, so they're not cheap, and we'll do a cost analysis on the savings. Really, one of the biggest, not just the personnel time, it's the loader. The loader is such a primary machine for us. We use that all season, you know, for everything, snow, construction, everything you can possibly imagine. And that's an equally expensive piece of equipment. Ours is in okay shape, but it will help the life of the loader, tires, wear and tear maintenance, etc.
So, if we were to purchase this, could we, is there any other use for that old garbage truck? Is that something we could sell, or?
We talked about
Things like
that,
that.
and I can't really think of a use for it. I mean, we would send that to auction like all
Right.
the other stuff that we wouldn't have a need for.
So we were able to offset some of the cost of purchasing the new piece of winter equipment
Yep,
we're using
right.
with the sale of some of the old equipment.
That's right.
That's a possibility.
Yep.
Obviously, this is gonna be more expensive.
Right.
but-
But yeah.
Storage wise, we'll put that in the new barn.
It's possible we can put it there because it's seasonal, or we would find room for it in the existing, like the larger barn. We've got some room in the newer, like the 5-bay garage, like the newer garage that faces west, like towards the back of the DPW building. So there's some room in there, but yeah, the biggest concern we had in making sure this was the right purchase for us is that it costs out because of the savings in a lot of ways, but we also had to have a truck to haul it. I mean, that's the other thing. We've talked a lot with the different manufacturers and suppliers, and and we've done some research in some of the other communities and what they use to haul it. Where we collectively used to work, we modified a truck. We don't really have to do that here. We have a vehicle that'll haul it. Very similar to like the one in the video, the older dump truck. So, let me just put this
Josh,
back
you
to
have a
full screen.
You got a question?
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, actually, just a remark, I always want, as I go along, that this is another one of those things that you learn. I thought we already had one.
Yep.
As I was going through the material, I go, well, this must be a replacement. So it's a learning point, and I always want to point that out.
Yeah, thanks. There was, the city had a smaller one, like you would, like apparently, I mean, I don't know if anybody that still works at DPW was here when that happened,
I
but
thought that was the sewer cleaner.
that's the back truck, that's different. But they had a smaller one that would, more like a residential landscaper would have, like a smaller, like just a two-wheel leaf back, and no one was really crazy
That was
about
what I
it.
spoke of, or
Yeah.
the earlier models were pretty rough.
So, this is the fourth one of these that we've done since I've been here. You know, I'm happy to report that we're full staff. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, other than to say that the ASME contract does expire at the end of this calendar year. So in the middle of the next fiscal year, we'll be in negotiations. And ASME covers the 4 employees at Public Works and then the 2 at the wastewater plant. So just to handle it, we're fully staffed with police and everybody, and I think everyone's happy, right? Smile, everyone's supposed to be happy.
What is that total number, John?
Total number of employees? I can't ask me a question like that. Let's see, 6, 10, 8, right around 20.
Including police?
Yeah.
So in terms of comparing our salary structure with other cities, is it pretty common to see very similar amounts across cities of similar size, or is there a big difference, or?
No, I would say that we're competitive,
Good.
yeah. The employees can answer that more definitively, I guess, but I would say we're competitive. In particular, the police department. We have a handful of employees that still have we call it the old school defined benefit pension, and that's a very valuable benefit in this day and age because that isn't common. And virtually everybody else except Ray, myself, Mr. Mead, and Mr. Weiss have a hybrid pension, which it's not as common as the other one, but that's also a benefit. And the police don't have that either. They have the traditional defined contribution. So that is a benefit that sets us apart, having at least the hybrid pension. And we're lucky and good. We don't have huge legacy costs because we don't have a lot of folks that they retired under a different system, or unfortunately they retired a while ago and then they're now deceased. So we're in good shape in staff. And that there at the bottom, that arrow kind of points to you all, stable political environment, which always helps with employee retention. So moving on to zoning and code enforcement. Some of these are repeats from last year. We've talked a couple different times. Mr. Haynes has been the champion for that, is doing a code enforcement review. And I think the approach for that is to have a specific work session on that and have folks bring sections, and we just need to lab it out. I think that's the best way to approach that. So hopefully you've all had a chance to fully read the code enforcement book and are well versed on that.
I remember we touched on these things, the rental inspection, the garage sale ordinance. We touched on that during city council meetings last year sometime. Was there follow-up on that?
Yeah, so the follow-up is here, and similar to the first one, really, we didn't ask the question if we should implement a rental inspection. That question wasn't posed to council, and I would defer to all of you if you want to have another work session or another. I think everybody understands how it would work, but if you need to see that again or a presentation from a different company, I think the presenter that we had did an adequate job of sharing the information, but the presentation maybe wasn't the best. I mean, it sort of languished a little bit, so maybe that's something that would be better in a work session. I think that it's important that we have a rental inspection ordinance. I've said that before. So, I mean, for your discussion now, I mean, is that something you would want to see as an agenda item or as a work session, or how would you like to approach that?
I personally would like to see, I'd be comfortable with any of those things if the rest of council wants to see it as another work session or something like that. But I think this is something we need to continue looking at, because we've ended up in a couple situations in the last few years where the rental inspection ordinance would have come in very handy, and because we don't have one, we had situations with homes in town that drug on for a long time.
Yeah, and I think that company that presented, they were a little bit on the expensive side too as well, weren't they? When the cost was about what they wanted.
I mean, I would disagree on that. It would be an expense, but I mean, ultimately we get to decide, how much the program is going to cost, and whether we staff that internally or staff that with a contractor. I don't think that's a job that we would. There wouldn't be enough work for one person on staff to do that. If that makes sense, it would be more like a contract situation like we have with legal or assessing or planning reviews.
What I remember about the garage sale thing is that we had some sort of a session about that, work session or something like that. And I thought we were all kind of in agreement that we should have a garage sale ordinance. And then, but that's where my memory stops. Am I just
Right.
missing it, or what?
No, we said we would bring that back at a later date, that we wanted to focus on the master plan and getting that further along, and then we will be reviewing, they're separate related, because the garage sale ordinance would be handled under the general code of ordinances.
Got it.
But we talked at, I didn't look up what meeting it is, because it's not really relevant, I guess, at this point. But that's something that we deferred that, have it come back a later date. And really the points were, how often and how many and over what time period. I mean, the rest of it is, I think, like pretty standard language. I don't think it's not as nuanced as maybe like the golf cart ordinance was. And we did it, in my opinion, we did a very thorough job of vetting that out on all angles. I don't think, and we'll certainly do that with rental and or garage sales, but it's just not that deep.
Okay, so it's coming up.
Yeah, so I said this before, but I like to say it again. I'm a firm advocate of people doing things. I think when people do things, towns get interesting. And whatever somebody's doing, someone's not gonna like it. So I'm on the side of, let's try to figure out ways that people can do things, especially if they're reasonable things that they wanna do, but there's a rule that's standing in their way. Like, let's change the rules so they can do it, and let's be interesting. So that's where I'm at on this, so, anyway.
Okay. So, a lot of these are, year over year repeats, but we continue to market and successfully brand the community. DDA has done a great job of adding events, and we've changed the look and somewhat the feel of downtown. We've done that with seasonal banners and other elements like that. We've done a great job with placemaking, like Old Mill, the kayak launch, McCormick Park, Farmers Market. So all of those things are really the foundational economic development in the year 2026. The zoning ordinance updates, that's, we need to make sure, and it really kind of like segues back to the work session we had a week ago with Tifa about, what do we need to update in the I-1 district? Do we expand the uses to make the property that we own now more favorable for the kind of development that we want to see? So we'll be working on the zoning ordinance update just this afternoon, and all of you will see this at our next council meeting, but McKenna did the annual report for the year for planning and zoning, and they did a really nice job of laying out the next steps for the master plan once that is adopted. And a big part of that is reviewing the zoning ordinance, and they've sectionalized it. Some of it we talked about, some of it we've already done. We talked about the Williamston Road Overlay District, making sure we made changes to that. Landscape standards, we made changes to that. So there'll be other things that really linking the master plan back to the zoning ordinance, because I think we all agreed that from 2015 to 2025, there's a gaps there that needed addressing. So, any questions about any of that? Okay, but those are all things that in the coming, even yet in this fiscal year, we'll be talking about. So when we talk about future development and redevelopment, I always like to share these slides. This is a property that we recently acquired. We talked about this at the Tifa meeting last time. That property around the south end of the industrial park. And then out towards the highway, just like to highlight, I mean, Tailgaters is in progress now. Right across the street from that is a commercial. Immediately to the east of that, there's two big parcels. One is residential and one is industrial, I-2. And then the residential that's highlighted there in yellow, that's right next to Nottingham Forest. It is zoned residential. That's mostly a swamp. I mean, there's not a lot of developable land in that area. It's about 16 acres or so. And then that commercial rectangle right next to there, that actually is right north of the old Marindorf's, which is now the senior center. But that is all commercial zoning. So this is all property that's mostly vacant, other than Tailgaters, and suitable for development. The Lynn Road property right across from Plymouth Landing, that residential at the very top, that is that 14 acres that they did seek and were granted a special land use about 19 months ago now. That's now expired. So if they wanted to propose what they had previously, they would have to come back and request a special land use. I have been in communication with that developer. It's been about a month or so now. They're primarily focused on their project with the township, which is out near Reners. It's an apartment building. We've talked about that before. But they had a couple of questions about the possibility of splitting that 14 acres on Lynn Road, so, and phasing the project. But their primary focus is that away right now. So. Any questions about the properties, either this one or this one?
So that industrial I-2 that's to the rear of Tailgaters.
Yep.
If we're gonna stay, now the residential that's to the north of that, that's still to be developed, right?
Correct, yeah, there's nothing there.
Now, if that's gonna, because we've been discussing different changes to zoning and whatnot, if we're gonna keep that residential and we're talking about opening up some more permitted uses in I-1, would it make sense to switch that from I-2 to I-1 if it's gonna be to the rear of all that residential?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the, that's a future land use map question, because there's no question, there's all this light industrial. The other practical challenge that we have is, as you know, we're in a moratorium for data centers.
Yep.
And they have to
They have
go
to have a place
somewhere.
they can go.
So,
Yep.
that's kind of the trade-off.
Gotcha.
So
I
it's
was just looking at that and I.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this at the work session, like, you know, in a perfect world, the industrial park wouldn't have been across the street from this residential development or this one. But this was the edge of town previously, right? This was the
That was the outskirts of town.
the outskirts of town. Yeah, this Lynn Road was the southern border, and then it was the township beyond there. So,
You know, what surprised me a little bit when, in that session, was that the obvious things that were being pointed out that made it difficult for people to come there, but yet they had been that way for so long and they hadn't been addressed. There was just like, there's a bunch of stuff you brought up that would make it more conducive for some people coming there. Made me wonder, like, why wasn't this changed before? Because nothing was happening.
yeah, I can't answer, before February of 2022, maybe into December of
So
2021.
this
but-
whole change initiates with the planning commission.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and also, keep in mind that the previous landowner, obviously they're seeking to get a return on their investment and,
Right, it did make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, just real briefly on new opportunities in the coming year, the property acquisition of the industrial park, and then our master plan, wrapping that up in the zoning ordinance, and those items encompass a lot of things. DDA will continue to work on its own infrastructure and, you know, assist other, you know, general city projects when they can, when they're in the district and it makes sense. They'll continue to work on its marketing plan and with the idea of bringing folks into town and you know, we do quite a bit here. I mean, it's funny, I have to go back to like early 2000s, late 1990s, you know, when I worked in Washtenaw County before, and there's no news stations there. There's no TV stations. So we have a huge advantage that we're able to use Channel 6 and Channel 10, and they'll do local advertising and they'll do local shows because, you know, folks, you know, obviously we're pretty invested in social media marketing, but we have the access to traditional media, and we reach, you know, hundreds of thousands of people for what I think is very inexpensive. You know, we spend, you know, $3,000 in a cost share with the businesses to make sure that we have a Christmas commercial, and I think that's great. It's great leverage of marketing dollars. So I think we do a great job with that. TIFA, I mean, that presents new opportunities. So there's a lot of good things that'll happen there. And you know, last but not least is this has been discussed that for a couple years at the parks level is adding additional pickleball courts at McCormick Park. The plan and the parks committee has reviewed a couple different iterations of adding courts, and we discussed the possibility at Dahlstrom Park and you know, other areas in town, but really with the infrastructure that's already at McCormick, we have, you know, walking paths to it, there's parking lots, there's restroom facilities already, and there's space, and there's also 2 existing courts. And so the idea is to do a schematic design to add 2 courts immediately to the east of the existing pickleball courts. We would end up moving the volleyball courts. It's about 30 feet to the east, and we have room to do that in order to fit the 2 new courts. And so we would be modeling that in the budget, and if, you know, council approves that, then we would move forward with that. We would bid that project out and move forward with that in the start of the new fiscal year. Yes?
What about a refurb on the current courts that are there?
Yep, that would be part of the project when the new courts are added. The existing ones, they are, no question, they're tougher to play on, but adding the polymer paint surface that we have, very similar to what's on the basketball court, we would do that at the existing pickleball court and as part of the new courts as well, so it would be seamless. But that would be part of the project. Yeah. And that will help a little bit, because those courts they're still in reasonably good shape, and you know, looking at right now just gross estimate for adding 2 courts, it's about right around $100,000 to add 2 courts. So if you're adding 4, then it's, you know, closer to $200,000.
Do you see a need of some type of control on access to those courts? As far as argument as to who gets them when?
So this is where your own lived experience comes into being at work. I do not favor that at all, and it's very similar to, we've had a basketball court that's existed for years, and you know, if young kids and you know, teenagers and adolescents can figure out who's got next, then grown-ups should be able to figure that out as well, especially if we're doubling the number of courts. And I played pickleball in an area that are public courts, and someone tacked up a whole bunch of rules, and we were happily playing, and we were told, no, it's time to rotate, and I said, respectfully, I ain't rotating. So, I mean, I don't think it's something, we don't want to get into legislating. They're open recreation courts. It's no different than the pavilions. The pavilions are first come, first serve. You know, folks don't reserve those, and I think pickleball I think they'll be able to work it out.
No armed guards then?
No. And that's my opinion. So if we're directed otherwise, so be it. But I can tell you that not having a system is better than the misery that having a system will cause.
Does Parks have $100,000 to do that, the second things? They have that in the budget?
Well, it has to survive our first budget model, but I mean, if all of you were given the stink eye or the thumbs down, then I wouldn't even bother putting it in a budget model.
I remember if it was last year or the year before, I think Jerry and some of his friends came with a proposal. It was the one that was for Dahlstrom Park, and there was something with some grants and a match. Has all of that? And I remember that was a much large. That was, I want to say 4 or 6 courts in Dahlstrom. Now we're talking 2. Is that? You guys were talking about a grant at that point, weren't you? Is that still out
At
there?
that point, we haven't talked about that for this proposal here. We are proposing to raise $30,000 ourselves to add fencing to the courts.
Okay.
I've already got commitments for $10,000, and I just got Rotary Club is going to give us $3,000 if this passes and is approved by your city council.
Okay. Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, these are year over year, we talk about these. One thing that, it isn't on the slide, but we talked about it at our joint session with the township, is getting together with them in work session format and to go through our existing 425 agreements, you know, specific to Williamstown. We do have one with Wheatfield, but those are I guess those are more, there's only one, and so it's easier to navigate that. So I think that's something that we should do. You know, no one likes to add work sessions in the summer, but whether it's late spring yet in this fiscal year or moving into the early summer, and have that apart from our joint session with Williamstown and focus, you know, have, you know, they're certainly invite their legal counsel if they want, not that it's adversarial, but just so they have their lawyer in the room and we would have ours, and because these are agreements span, you know, many years, and they're not as simple as a simple matrix of what happens.
I was surprised that the Williamston motel, that we needed a special thing for them to hook up to the sewer. I figured there was 425 agreements with everybody at the edge of Williamston, whatever that was. What percentage of the edge of Williamston is covered by a 425, and what percentage still needs to be covered? Not exact.
So, that probably 90% of it is already covered in existing agreement. Well, I take that back. With Williamstown, the majority is. The areas that are would be in Wheatfield. The areas immediately. Let's back up here. So, this area here, there's no 425 agreement for this area. You know, and again, this extends out to eternity. Same thing with, this is the industrial park up here. So all of this is all in the town, in Wheatfield, and that there's no agreement for that. Same thing, you know, there's pockets in between Plymouth Landing and where the water plant is over here. And then east of the water plant to Corwin Road, there's no existing agreements for that. But it's really around the Grand River corridor that there's agreements.
So, in your opinion, would it be worth our while to set those 425s up now, so they don't surprise us at some point in the future?
I think that, I mean, there's pros and cons of doing it both ways. One, it lays out clearly, you know, what the rules are for expansion in and around the city, but we're the throttle, if you will, because we have utilities. And so, you know, our water plant, it does, you know, it's more than adequate, it's reasonably new to serve us and some slow managed growth over time. Wastewater plant is getting, you know, up there in capacity, but still adequate for some slow managed growth. Anything beyond that, we frankly wouldn't be able to provide. We wouldn't be able to provide utilities because we would have, like, if a 500 unit development came in a township somewhere and we had an existing agreement, then it gets pretty dicey for us to provide utilities to the properties that, like these, that are within our own boundary. And frankly, I mean, not to go back in history, but that's part of the issue. You know, north of, like, where the golf course is, that they're beautiful golf course, beautiful homes across, actually from both. Those are all they have our utilities, but they're in the township.
Yeah, that's 425.
Yeah, and they stay in the township forever.
So I think it would be good to have the work session, and definitely separate from our normal work session where we just kind of discuss general things. My only concern is like, 425s we have now, those are the rules. And some of those have come about amicably, some of
Right.
them have come about via lawsuit.
No question,
Um,
yep.
We're not relitigating a lot of this.
Right.
It's kind of, this is, hey, everybody understand, this is what the rules we have, and not wrangling
Right.
over any of it, would be my.
If taking some time ahead of time, setting up rules, copying them from this place and implementing over here, if that caused us to avoid litigation, that's a good thing.
So,
I didn't
The-
know there was litigation.
It predated everyone in this room,
right.
like, by quite a while.
So you think of a scenario, and I'm not going to name it. So you like Jones Township is our southern border, and they want the developer wants to have a super dense development, and they need, quote unquote, need our water and sewer, and the only way to do that is there's two ways. There's through annexation, which they can request, or there's a 425. 425 is the more, cooperative way, theoretically cooperative way to do it, but what can happen from time to time is then can become litigious, and then it goes on for years and years.
So can we always say no if we want?
To annexation? Oh yeah, we don't have to, we're under no obligation to, we don't have to take in territory that the city doesn't want.
But then the other guy can say, well, I'm gonna take you to court. So-
Right.
No, there's nothing, like, if you own, 100 acres adjacent to the city and you wanted to be annexed, the city can say no. The city doesn't have to say yes to it. The flip side is if someone has 100 acres, and townships will argue that this isn't the case, but that person who has 100 acres and we wanted to come in and they wanted to come in, the township it doesn't want it to come in, then they would say no, and they would sue
So
you.
all of those entities have a say in it.
Correct.
Now,
If all three of them say,
Down to money.
yeah,
I'm sure it does.
No, it's all the tax dollars.
it's a strange three-legged stool, because if all three say yes, then it goes.
Yeah.
If the city and the developer say yes, then it goes. If the township and the city say yes, then it goes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. So, come to the point, we're kind of wrapping things up here, so we'll just go in order with the slide, just reports from our various departments, and fire away, chief.
Okay, well, in the police department world, we're fully staffed, and I anticipate that going on for a few years. For budgetary purposes, for the 26-27 budget, we're looking at a new patrol car, much like we did last year. Patrol car is $67,523, with upfitting charges just a little over $88,000. Our second request would be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Quick question. I want to confirm that number. 68,000 for the patrol car?
Correct. Yes.
I'm the NISA representative. NISA spent $100,000 in that side-by-side thing?
Yeah.
$100,000?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just flabbergasted. I figured that
You're doing
a
a
police
4x4.
car would be 150 or something.
No, that's a
That's the
Ford.
real number?
That's a Ford Explorer all-wheel drive.
That's with the intro and the laptop and the
No,
guns and
the patrol car itself is $67,523. The upfitting charges for overhead lights, this graphics on the side, all the upfitting on the inside is another $20,932. So for a grand total of $88,455.
Okay, those are good numbers. Thank you. I'm just surprised with it.
No worries. Second thing is, when I was a part-time officer in the city of Williamston in 1990, they still had the same lockers they do now. So it's time for those to get replaced. I did get 3 quotes for lockers, range anywhere from $12,000 to $16,000 for new lockers for the locker room. Other than that, in the past years, after I started in October 1st of '23, we updated our equipment, rifles, shotguns, handguns. So we've purchased ammo when it's on sale, so we've got very good deals on that. So other equipment needs are met and have been updated. Other than that, the police department, everything is going well.
number of reserve officers.
We currently have 10. I would like to, I think the magic number would be around 12 or 13. But right now we have 10 reserve officers that are very dedicated and serve the city well at no charge.
With the new purchase of a new police vehicle, is the oldest vehicle falling out of
Yep.
service for sale, or?
Yes, so currently, with the purchase of a new vehicle, the last highest mileage car with 136,000 miles would be rotated out and sent to auction. So everyone would just move down the list. Good question.
So are you able to handle an ill-intentioned person with an assault rifle?
We are,
You are?
yes, our officers are very well trained and equipped.
So you're also,
Yes.
hope, I mean, hopefully that not happening.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
How are we doing from a crime, safety, what's the atmosphere?
Sure. That's an excellent question. We have very little violent crime in the city. In fact, I've been here now since October 1st, 2023. There's been no, I guess, the index 1 crimes, if you will, the armed robberies, homicides, we've had virtually none. So it's the crime we get. We may get a spur of crime for larceny from autos. Like for instance, in 24, 2 gentlemen came in and broke into, I think, 10 to 12 cars. So we do get small spurts every now and again, but on average, it's a very safe community.
When was our last murder?
Ask Rod that.
Yes, honestly,
Wasn't there one where there was somebody who was taking care of their relative or something like that, and then
Down the road from
and they died, but maybe they were killed? Was it?
there was a conviction recently that happened where, and it's been adjudicated, the gentleman was found guilty. He was charged with actually torture of a victim. The victim did pass, however, he is not charged with a homicide. So before that, again, whoever said ask Rod Sadler, you got a good point. That probably was the Haynes murder in 18-something.
Is that the one on Railroad?
Yes,
That's the real vicious kind of,
it was.
they tore the house down because it was ghosted and all
Yep.
that. Okay. People that I know from places I've lived before, they ask me, what's it like living in a small town? And one of the things I say is, well, we don't have any murders.
Yeah,
And so we really haven't had, that's it, we just don't.
correct.
Okay, that's cool.
Staff does a great job. Thank you.
Okay, Holly.
I provide a written report for everybody. I'll just go over it briefly with you. We have 3 elections coming up in the 2026 year. The first one will be the May 5th Bingham Intermediate School District Bond Special Election. We are not doing early voting for the 9 days for that, and we are going to consolidate into 1 precinct for both the in-person voting and the AV processing. So that will cut down on our costs significantly for that. August 4th, we have the state primary election, and November 3rd, we have the state general election. Those will include the 9 days for early voting, and we plan to do exactly what we did before, having it in the council chambers. It seemed to work out really well. People really like the convenience of it. The state previously said that municipalities were going to be on the hook for the new election equipment. However, it has been included in the state of Michigan budget, but has not been approved by the legislature yet. But as soon as I know that will probably put us all at ease, because it is very expensive to replace everything. We do have a new surveillance camera installed in the front of City Hall to monitor the drop box. That is state regulated. We have to have that per state law. We just got a ring camera and put it up there, and so we are monitoring that throughout the election year. I've included a list of the board vacancies. If you know anybody that's interested, please let me know. I will send them an application gladly. We don't have that many right now, so that's always a good thing. We are processing still about 70 FOIAs per year on average. A lot of those have to do with the police department, and they can be anywhere from a couple pages to hundreds of pages. And we do a really great job of making sure we keep track of all of those FOIAs, making sure they're going out on time and they're being redacted properly for privacy reasons. Records retention. We were able to purge over 100 boxes from the upstairs area that were, the retention date had expired, and DPW helped us out with that, and we did have them taken away by a shredding company. And we're gonna do another round of that to hopefully keep them up to date.
Is there anything else up here besides old records?
Just old records.
That's all there is
It's
to
a
it?
lot of old records.
Boxes and boxes and boxes. Okay.
Police department does put their records up there as well, and they kind of maintain their own retention
Do we have
schedules.
a new mouse-proof stair or something like that over there?
They did make some improvements to the stairs, so that was nice this past year.
That's a good
So, but it's not very heat temperature regulated up there, so it's more of a fair weather kind of project. The recording equipment, obviously it's gone, and it literally died at the exact same time. We did replace it with these little recorders. Barb and I both have one now. That way we can take them anywhere we have a meeting, which is really nice. We can plug it into our computer, download the meeting audio, and we can just go back and forth on it. It's very, very convenient. It actually picks up speaking at the back of the room too. So they're very, very nice, and probably a lot cheaper than an entire big system that we don't have a really big room for. Council positions are coming up. We have 4 seats up for election this year. If you are up for election, I have included your name on here. The due date for petitions is July 21st by 4 p.m. If you are doing a petition, I always recommend that you come in way earlier than that, maybe a week earlier. In case there's an issue, we can fix it before the deadline. If you do it at the deadline on that date and there's an issue, well, we can't fix it. So but I always recommend early. A couple special projects that I didn't include that I worked on last year was the cleanup day. We've done it for 2 years now. 2025 in April, we did it on a Saturday, and we had a really good turnout. We had a massive amount of mattresses that were dumped at the DPW area, and it was kind of a fun day. A couple DPW, Ray and I were out there, and people just came on in with their stuff to put in the dumpster, and we had a really great turnout this year. We're going to start doing it every other year rather than every year. I think that's probably just about right for the demand that we have. I did get to help out with the Dog Days of Summer event in August, and we did have a really great turnout despite the heat. The mayor did help with a lot of the activities that day, which was really cool. But I think I'm going to be doing that again this year, so that's cool. I worked on the lighting of the downtown businesses, the outlining, which was really, it was kind of a challenge. And once I got a certain momentum going and they all kind of started falling in line, well, some of the no's I got to change to some yeses, and so we got probably 98% of our buildings lit up this year, which was awesome. I really had fun with that. I currently still do the Discover Williamston page, and we have a lot of over maybe 2,000 followers. I have to check on that, which is really cool. That's all about downtown businesses. It's kind of a DDA thing that I do just kind of on my own time. It's definitely got a good following. If you have events downtown, if you have specials and everything, I make sure I post those daily pretty much. So if you're not on there, please join. That's all I got.
Any questions for Holly? Tom, you got anything for the coming fiscal year?
Yeah, real quickly, financially, things are looking good. I'm just gonna kind of focus real quick on the general fund revenues. The taxes are up. I'm gonna say, I'm guessing they're probably gonna hit between 1.5% to 2% increase, which is probably gonna be 40,000 over what we anticipated. Interest rates are down a little, but we anticipate that when the budget hit, so I think we'll still come in play pretty well, or hit the projections there. The only thing that's a little bit up in the air with the new revenue sharing and the new gas taxes, how that may impact things, it's a little early to tell yet. There's a lot of speculation that the revenue sharing could come down a little bit, but there's also speculation that probably won't impact most cities until maybe the latter half of this budget and into next budget, because that legislation was passed late enough that hopefully it won't impact this year too much. So, but again, it's a little early to tell. We haven't seen the numbers yet. So overall, I think we're going to be up on the revenue. So we're good. We're happy with that. Delinquency on property taxes is good. We're only about 1.8% as of today, which is pretty amazing, I think. A couple things I think we talked about real quickly. We switched to the VSA cloud, so we now are officially on the cloud with all our accounting systems. So hopefully everything we're being told is pretty secure, being backed up regularly, like every 15 minutes. If there is issues, it shouldn't fall on the city, it should fall on them to try to get everything resolved. We did, of course, have all of our computers upgraded, the desktops and stuff, because the operating system was outdated, and we just got all that done, and now we got an email not too long ago saying our server is now reaching the end of its life, and that operating system will be outdated. So we have actually, I got a Zoom meeting tomorrow with BC3 to find out some more information about what will be involved to get that upgraded, and we'll try to get a quote on that, so that will be forthcoming. We'll bring you some information on that. The only other thing I think that I will throw out there, and I want to make sure it didn't rain on the city manager's parade, but he said, yeah, go ahead.
It's always raining over here, Tom.
He said, go ahead and let you know. So if you recall, late last summer, we applied through BC3 for some technology grants. We wanted to change the domain name to .gov. We wanted the multi-party authentication, and we wanted an advanced backup system, which may not be quite as critical now that we're on the cloud. But either way, it was a 3-part application. Unfortunately, when they came back, they did award us one. It was a very small one. It was just the change to the .gov domain. I believe it was around 19,000. That left 87,000 that we didn't get selected for. Just out of the blue, a week or two ago, we got an email. I think it was last week. We got an email. They must have done another round of reviews of the applications, and we were notified that we were now for the other two, the multi-factor authentication, another 34,000 for that, and the advanced backup solutions, another 53,000 for that. So with all three combined, we'll be close to 100,000 on the technology upgrade grant. So we're pretty excited to see that. So
Great.
that's all I have, I think.
Yeah, I have a question about what's happening in the world of municipalities in terms of hackers going after their information. So at one point, I thought I read that municipalities were kind of a popular
Huge. Yeah.
target. Is that still the case? Or?
It is, and that's one reason we are devoting so much effort into looking at solutions like this, like going to the cloud. Obviously will help, because when you have information out on the cloud, you have the best of the best of people that are trying to protect that information, a lot more than we can provide, or even our IT people can provide in-house. Also, with some of these other things, like multi-factor authentication, it just minimizes the possibility for hackers and stuff. In fact, I think the chief had mentioned in the lien audit, it's actually gonna be required for us to comply with the lien audit, so. So a lot of these steps, and of course, keeping your software up to date, whether you get to a point when the software's too old and they're not providing the patches and fixes anymore, then of course you're vulnerable. So, and all this, everything we're doing here is to try to stay on top of that.
Okay, last but not least, you got 10 seconds.
Okay, I'll keep it quick. Our department is fully staffed. I'm working on budget quotes right now for the upcoming budget sessions. We're looking forward to wrapping up our winter chores, plowing, shoveling, salting. That's getting hopefully to the end of the line of that. We'll have hydrant flushing coming up, and then our sidewalk repair plan and crack filling, of course, that we discussed. And I would also like to say that we revamped our additional training program, and thanks to the police chief, he has provided us with a training officer that has recertified us, and us meaning water, wastewater, public works, in CPR, AED training, and bloodborne pathogen training. And next year we plan on having him certify us in first aid, and then we'll bounce back every other year. So I'm happy to report that, and that's about it.
Yeah, we're able to use one of the reserve officers does the training. You want to just briefly identify him?
Yeah, sure. Greg Francis, who
Oh, I'm sorry.
serves as one of our SROs, as a reserve officer, but he has a background. He was a paramedic, firefighter at Delhi Township. So I put the word out asking him if he would be interested. He went through and took the necessary certifications through American Red Cross, became a CPR, first aid, AED, bloodborne pathogens instructor, which is it's chock full of excitement for that training class. But
He did an outstanding job, I will say that. He kept it interesting, kept everybody awake, and we got through all the materials, so
yep,
shout out to him.
He speaks from real life experience instead of an instructor saying, hey, this is how you do CPR, Greg's done CPR. So he does a great job, and it was well received by the DPW crew.
And have that in-house. You
Yes.
don't have to hire a trainer.
Correct.
That's probably a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did we get our new snow removal?
Yeah, I was gonna wonder, that's the 4
How's
foot
that
wide.
going?
It just started this weekend, so we're going through the lumps and bumps of it. It's a powerful machine, and it did great. I think we're really gonna do well with that. The drop salter worked great uptown on the sidewalks, and we plan on getting both brooms out there now as long as the John Deere holds together. But yeah, the new machine, we have no problems with it so far. We're really happy with it, so thanks to council for approving that, and yeah, and we're taking on additional DDA areas around the blocks and doing the path in the park, so it's gonna be good for us,
No
for everybody.
for a big dump of snow so you can really play with it.
Yeah. We don't wanna put it through too much of a test.
So is that saving us a little bit man hours in the work time and freeing up other people like it was supposed to be?
Correct. We're still learning it. It's kind of quite an advanced piece of machinery with the salter on the back and the broom in the front, or you got the snow blower, so you got a lot of levers and buttons going there. So
So we got both the broom and the snow blower.
yes,
And I knew the salter, but I couldn't, for some reason I was thinking we were getting one of them. So you're probably figuring out where it's best to use what?
well actually,
The blower or the
right, and I think that what determines that is the amount of snow we get. The broom is fast, but obviously when you start getting piling up, it can't move that much. You got to get the snow blower on there. So you're ready for either a light snow or a heavy snow. So.
As the NISA guy, I have to ask, did you spend less than $100,000 on that?
Yes.
I'm just trying to get some benchmarks.
Yes, we did.
Compare.
Sir, I can't recall it this time, sir.
Wow, well.
Wanted to thank the DPW replacing the wrought iron fencing in the front of various buildings. It looks better, much better, and it's much safer not having that fencing wobbling at the bottom.
I just apologize for how long it took. It was right close to embarrassing. It took so long for them to get the parts, and we were out there walking around. When was that, John? In October?
Yeah.
And but we got by. We cabled up a trash can to the one railing so it was safe during the Christmas parade, and so we we adapted until we got the parts in. But yeah, it's and we might have a few more posts to do, but yeah, it looks good.
This is kind of more of a John question. With DTE, the city residents are almost pitchforks, flaming torches and pitchforks. Is there any interaction with consumers in DTE with the multi-outages that we've had in the last 18 months?
Well, I mean, consumers is gas, so none with them, but DTE, I mean, that's ongoing, and Michael Sage is the government affairs rep. I speak to him frequently. Most recently with, I don't know if you recall, Gabe Boddard came to council and talked about the power blips at the industrial park, and so I put Mr. Sage in touch with him. As far as like our impact to do anything, when I started here in the summer of 2022, I sat down with Mr. Sage and a couple others, and they're about, we had, for my first 6 months here, there was an inordinate number of power outages. I mean, some of it was tornado related, some of it was like seemingly random. So they were assured that a lot of the infrastructure work they're doing along the Grand River corridor, they replaced a lot of the primary that comes to us, that feeds us, because we're kind of we're the end of the line for DTE, and we would be the other end of the line for Board of Water and Light. So you never want to be at the end of the line, even on the railroad track. So their infrastructure, it's definitely improved. As far as like our impact, I mean sort of like we can operate like the city of Ann Arbor and threaten to become a public power community, but that's not really like affordable or practical. Council member Hanson and I had that discussion one time, philosophical discussion. So, I mean, other than the power goes out and they're customers and there's not really a lot of choice for that. Folks should continue to talk to call whoever they have to, and we'll continue on with Mr. Sage. That's the best we can do.
What was last week's reason? Anything?
I believe there was, because I listened to fire radio, a transformer line that went down just north of town.
Yeah.
Even when Zicky was mayor, we talked about that same thing. Like all the power outages, and the idea that we're at the end of the line, that came up at that time as well. Everyone wondered about, like, why are we, it was like that then, too.
Yeah, well, it's a strange affair because we're on Church Street, and right across the street they're on a different, whatever you would call it.
It's a different
I call
circuit.
it grid.
Yep.
They're on a separate thing.
Right.
So they have power, their lights. Right. We don't, which includes the elementary, and it's been kind of often in the last 18 months.
So in the last year and a half or 2 years, whatever, there's these new power pylons going out to the east. Are you the reason why they put those in then, or is that?
I don't know that I'm a reason for anything that they do. Short of us going every time there's a public hearing before the Public Service Commission, and not to get too far in the weeds for a utility that we have zero control over and probably only a small amount of influence because we're paying customers. We would have to continue to testify before the Michigan Public Service Commission, and no one likes the power to go out, but the power goes out. I mean it's 100% reliability is every utility's goal, because when the power's not on, they're not making money. So
Maybe those new pylons will make sure we have fewer power outages.
in theory, I mean, it should help. I mean, because it was wood infrastructure, and we've had some pretty severe weather recently. So. All right. Anything else to shed light on while we're still here?
No pun intended.
No, that was intended.
Oh.
Staff, we wore them down with your report, so no one's gonna.
Warm up.
Anything else? Anything anybody wants to add?
I circle back, we talked about it some, but I don't know that we actually got the consensus. Were we looking, did we want as a council a work session to discuss those ordinances with the rental, and the garage sale? Did we want staff to bring that for action? What were we talked about it, but we never really gave any direction to staff.
With the work session.
I agree.
The end of that was that we wanted to have that integrated with the master plan kind of thing. Was that?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to focus our energy on master plan and the zoning ordinance specifically, but going in reverse order on the slide, the garage sale, I think that I can present that to you in, the next, 60 days or so, and, ruminate on it and vote it up or down. And that way we'd have something in place before garage sale season if council wants to go that direction. Code enforcement is, that's a little broader topic, and same with rental inspections. Rental inspection is probably a work session, as opposed to just a agenda item on the council.
Work session, so we're good with.
Work session would be a good idea.
I just wanted to make sure that it was something we talked about, that we were actually giving the
Yep.
direction we were at.
So are we allowed to adjourn this without the hammer gavel thing?
Is it-
He's got to slap his hand.
Well, just one thing, this is in the, I apologize to the public, this doesn't translate very well. I'll make a note to change that for next year. Can't see it, but the next milestone is April 13th council meeting. The first draft budget is presented to city council. The 11th and the 16th, 26th, which is the Tuesday after Memorial Day, are the budget work sessions. We have the public hearing on budget and utility rates on May 26th, that same meeting, and then the budget would be adopted June 8th. By charter, the budget has to be adopted before the end of the fiscal year, so that gives us plenty of time in June, the first meeting in June, in case we have to hold over or power's out or we have to adjourn for some reason. So, and then July 1st, the new fiscal year starts.
Are we contemplating utility rate changes?
Not at this time, but we'll we've got to get through the budget model, and so, okay. I don't anticipate anything for water. If there is a rate change, it'd be in wastewater, and it'd be a small percentage. So that's it.
Is that what you're looking for?